Cool. So here we are again for our Q&A of the day. So if you guys have any questions about stuff that you're working on or otherwise that we can help with, this is the time. So does anybody have any questions?
Yes. Hi.
Hey.
Deanna, did you receive that?
I did, but there's quite a few of them. So why don't you ask one or two now, and then we can come circle back around. But you have quite a few questions, yes.
Yes. Roland, in determining the amount of working capital that's needed to be left in the company, what would you say is a safe margin today during COVID? In other words, you've above the full coverage by cash flow. What buffer would you put in because of the concern about payment, people being able to pay and of course it depends on the industry and the impact on the customers and this kind of thing. But, at what point would you see the risk as being too great in terms of it being too close and you would, pass on the deal if you couldn't, do a quick cash injection, by some sort of magic, that you bring to the table.
Yeah, if you're talking about, if you're talking about a company that is profitable, that has positive cash flow, then it's basically just what has historically been necessary to be in the bank over the past 12 months, the TTM trailing 12 months, to operate the company. So that's usually how we establish what working capital is. It might or might not be optimal because they might be or might not be operating optimally, but that's how we generally do it, because you're required to leave the gas in the tank to keep the thing going, but you aren't required to leave savings. So if you've got 6 months of operational capital that's there, then you're probably going to have a pretty good discussion about, is that necessary to operate the business? So if it's a turnaround, then it's not got positive cash flow, then it probably doesn't have the cash there to start with. So it really just depends on the situation.
Right. Oh, so when did accounts, in other words, let's say the accounts receivable were generated by sales prior to the closing, and obviously the owner might say that that's his, or the seller might say that it's
not. It's just not. No.
Okay, so you just keep it going and the flow going as it was.
Correct. Yeah. The whole reason that you get a multiple on your profits is that you give a going concern. And so if there's trade credit that's extended in the ordinary course of business to buyers of the company's products or services, then that always passes, unless that's a carve out, in which case you would get a reduction in the purchase price in an amount corresponding to the amount of AR that gets cut out.
Okay. And in terms of the settlement due diligence, in other words, the due diligence after the closing, that in other words, checks whether there were sufficient funds in the bank account as promised, and all of these things. What are all of these things? In other words, what are the things that need to be checked?
It's on the checklist that's in the forms and agreements that you guys have. We have the checklist for due diligence from Grant that we use when we do deals. So we just go through that checklist item by item.
Are you talking about the PowerPoint, or are you talking about
there's a due diligence checklist. I think it's a Word document.
Okay, it's the one that has the MIPA on it. That was another question. Membership interest purchase agreement. What is that? Is that part of the purchase sale agreement, or is that separate?
That's a purchase if you're buying like an LLC. So that when you have an LLC, you typically have members instead of shareholders. And so when you buy out their interests, you're buying out membership interests. But that's a different document than the due diligence document. Due diligence document should be labeled due diligence. Deanna, do you want to check and see if that is labeled correctly in there?
Yeah, I'm going to look right now and see. It should say due diligence checklist.
Yep.
Okay. Another quick one. You mentioned an out clause in the event of you discover that something is really not right. How would you get out after you discovered it 60 days in? To reverse everything that's transpired, all the payments and all the,
Yeah,
You know,
it just
it's a
depends.
big
So
deal, isn't it?
yeah, and it depends. So you can have an out clause that is so that you're not, there are certain conditions that have to be met prior to the closing, and you can get out of the contract even if you've committed to closing, you've signed your definitive agreement, but it hasn't closed yet, and something comes up in due diligence that's material. You typically define what's material, which there are clauses in the agreements that you guys have with that language in them, long agreements that you have from Grant. But in
Yeah.
terms of the mechanic, it's basically, and this happens in deal, is if you find that you were defrauded and that it was in a material amount and it's above the holdback basket that you've created to cover things that, typically are discovered, which is usually about 10% of the purchase price, then you've got a decision to make. Can you live with it and go forward and pursue your claim against the seller, or can you not? And you'd rather just unwind the deal, and then you're going to basically, your damages are whatever it costs you to unwind the deal. But then you're in litigation. So you have the
Yeah.
clause so that you're not obligated to continue to pay, but they're not likely, if they have defrauded you once, they're not likely to say, oh, you're right, you caught us, here's your $400,000 of payments back, right? You're going to have to go chase them for it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But it gives you the legal right. So that's about as good as you can do there, other than you've got a holdback basket that you create, which is typically 10% of the purchase price for things that come up that you weren't expecting. And that is usually for a period of 2 or 3 years that you're holding back that amount to see if anything comes. And then that gets released after that period of time. And if it's in excess of that, then you have the right to offset. So let's say that you're paying, $2 million over 5 years, and 6 months in, you find out that there's $1 million thing that goes against your way. Well, then you would generally have the right of offset to say that money that I was going to pay you is now reduced by the amount of the thing that you misrepresented.
And if there's not enough money in the pot to offset, then you go to court.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be necessarily in the pot in that case, because you would have a $2 million promissory note that you owed to the seller. And
Yeah.
if there was $1 million in damages, you just reduce that amount by that million.
Right. Okay. I've got more questions, but if somebody else wants to go, I mean, or I can keep going for.
Hi, Roland.
And Joanne,
Hey.
I just emailed you. Joanne, I just emailed you it. It's also in the portal. It just says sample close. That's what it was labeled. I've
Oh.
changed it to say due diligence checklist. So it's
Ah.
there, but I also just emailed it to you as well.
Thank
Good.
you
Yeah,
very much.
that's a better label.
Well, I think what happened was when Grant sent it over, it came in as it said sample close, and
Okay.
so it labeled that. So it is corrected, and it is
Excellent.
now in your inbox. Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, Roland. Good morning.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Good morning, everybody. Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
I'm working on a transaction. It's a real estate purchase. It's a multi-family building. We might be able to purchase it for 1/3 of the price.
Great.
But, I'm thinking, how to make it limited out of pocket. I cannot make it zero out of pocket. We know that, right? It's a big transaction.
Uh-huh.
I can secure it, but then I was just thinking, what will be the right strategy to take out some of the equity,
Yeah, I mean, what I do is just go through the checklist of all the different things. So we have 216 things that you can look at and just kind of go through those and say, would this apply? Would this apply? Would this apply? Some things might not. You do have carve-outs in multifamily. There are business things like laundromats and vending machine franchises and things like that you may or may not want as part of the deal. You have obviously seller financing. You have deferred down payments. You have don't buy 100% now. You could buy with an option, so that maybe you say, well, we can afford to acquire 60% right now, and then the remaining 40%, you get an option, so that we'll acquire, we have the right to acquire that for the same price for a period of X years or something like that. So those are some immediate things. Sale and lease back, they could basically you could do a lease option, so that basically you're leasing the right to operate the multi-unit facility for a period of time with an option to purchase it for a period of time in the future. Those are lots of things like that. So I just go through that list and say, which of these things do I think sound like fit this particular situation? And then rank them from your most preferred to your least preferred, and then just start haggling.
This one is a receivership actually.
Okay.
So it will have to be like, in one shot kind of.
Yeah. So if it's in a receivership, you're typically required to come up with cash, although that is something that you can negotiate. So depending on how many other buyers there are. So is this going to auction then through the receiver, or is it a direct deal with the receiver?
I think it might be mostly like a direct deal through a brokerage.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I would ask them, I'd say, is the seller, who's the seller? Is it an institution?
Seller is the receiver himself, because the original owners have been kicked out.
Okay, so it's the estate, so it's the bankruptcy estate or the receiver's estate. So he or she is operating as an agent for that. Yeah, so I mean, so they're going to be looking for cash most likely. So I'd be looking for maybe a hard money loan, and I'd be looking at investors and those types of things, because though in a deal like that, the receiver is just trying to maximize the amount of money that's available to the creditors that he or she represents, and so they're going to do it at a liquidation price, which is fantastic. But you could also look at potentially a wholesale deal or a partner coming in as well. So there are lots of people who partner. What area of the world is this in?
Canada.
Canada. Okay. Yeah. So, that would be another way to go. Those are kind of like you have probably only about 10 or 15 options when you're dealing with something like that, because they're going to want cash at closing. And they aren't really in the business of haggling. They're just in the business. And by the way, they also get paid typically a percentage of the cash that they generate. So they're more motivated to get cash up front than they are to take some amount of time to get it.
They've already messed it up by prolonging all the process.
Yeah, that happens all the time. I mean, that's like, it's ironic, but it's the worst thing that can happen to any business or property is to get a receiver in, because then you have them charging their fees, and they're not typically business people. And then you have their attorneys and the courts that are charging fees, and it's just kind of a mess. So yeah, it's always bad to have a receiver come into any business that you've got.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, Roland, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So in the trainings we talked about kind of it's not that it's a quicker due diligence, but it's doing the due diligence up front, doing a close contingent on the due diligence working out afterwards that you do after the actual close of the business, right? A more in-depth due diligence.
Yep.
Does that have to stay within like the $1 million range, or can you do that up to the 10 million? Does that matter?
No, it doesn't matter. It's just that usually in larger deals, there's more money that's happening up front. So it depends on the deal. You can do them under any circumstance, right? It's just you have to be comfortable with the amount that's at risk. So as the deal gets bigger, usually the effort and the expenses of even closing the deal, like attorney's fees and things like that, go up. And so you typically are going to want to do a little bit more due diligence before you go in and do the close.
Okay.
But there isn't like a bright line, this is only for $1 million or anything like that.
Okay. And do you have, when you do that preliminary due diligence, like we were talking about before you close and then do the full due diligence, do you have like a criteria of what you would actually need to say, you better look at these things before you?
Well, you want to get as much information as you can, right? But a lot of times you're doing that because part of the thing is that you're able to close fast. And so that's part of the deal and part of the reason you get the price that you get. So the things that the answer is, it depends on what's important to you, right? So that's going to depend on different businesses. Why are you buying the business? I'm buying it because they own this media asset that is going to provide leads to my existing platform. Okay, well then you're going to want to be sure that they own it, right? That's easy to do. Yeah. So I'd want to, show me the intellectual property agreements that show that you own this. That would be important to me. Now, but I can tell you though, like we have both bought and sold companies or assets where there's like a claim out there. Like maybe there's a claim. I remember one piece of real estate, it was a condominium in particular, that there was this multi-million-dollar claim against the owner of the estate, but we were able to arrange a sale because the creditors hadn't foreclosed on this interest. Now, it was a rental property, and so we were only willing to do a deal with a few months of revenue, like 12. And so the bet was, will it take them 12 months? Will they forget? But they hadn't done anything for 5 years, right?
Jeez. Okay.
So it was like, so you get into a little bit of, risk reward kind of analysis when you do those deals. It just depends. So what I would say is, the things that I would want to verify prior to closing would be the things that are absolutely critical to me doing the deal. And so I'd say, what would have to be true here that would cause me not to go forward right now? And can I get answers to those things? And if I can, then I'm really willing to live with the other stuff and the possibility that some crazy thing comes out of left field.
Right.
That's kind of how I would take a look at that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else have questions? Just post them in the chat.
Yes, I have more.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Roland, you mentioned in the deal strategies, the 216 deal strategies, reverse merger. It's number 109 in your strategies. Merge the SPV with a public shell and distribute stock to the seller for payment, right?
Yep.
Is that realistic? I mean, can you have one public company in a group of private companies and sell it to, how would you deal with that?
Yeah, it's very realistic and quite common, actually. So, but maybe the structure isn't completely clear. So in this scenario, you have a public shell, so it's publicly traded, and you have your company that's your platform company, that's your primary company, which you then merge with the public shell, and you receive stock in the public shell in exchange for putting that company in, and now you're in control of the public company. Now, as you go to acquire additional companies to roll them up, you are trading stock in the public shell for the assets or stock of the companies that you're acquiring. So yeah, that's a very common thing. Absolutely. And
so you would put
actually increasingly popular right now.
So you'd put all of your companies into there? Is that what you're saying? In other words,
you would put all of the companies that were part of that roll-up deal. Yes.
Right. As individual companies? In other words, would you leave them as separate companies? It
would depend. So it depends on the deal, right? So if it's a roll up of a bunch of companies, usually they don't retain their individual entities. They all end up becoming held by the holding company that's the public company. And so that becomes the operating company. That's how that usually works. If there were reasons, tax reasons or geographic location reasons or liability reasons that you might want to separate them out, then you might not put them all under there. But typically, they all become one in a deal like that.
Right. And what's the cost normally of an empty public shell?
It depends on the shell. So it might be, and you got to be really, really, really careful there because there are groups of people called short sellers that live to trade in those companies. And if they see them going up in value on the stock exchange or the sheets that they're trading in, then they'll come in and do short selling, and that can be a real problem. But so you want to be sure you have a quality shell, which is one reason that SPACs have become super popular. And so if you look into that, those are more popular these days because they are starting as a clean shell as opposed to acquiring one that's already been out there trading for a while. But your cost to acquire one, when we were doing them, they were selling in the $100,000 to $300,000 range for a really clean shell. But that price varies. If you find one much under 100, I'd be a little bit concerned about, what is the float that's out there in other people's hands of tradable stock? Because if the value goes up in the company, the way market making works is that a lot of people think that the price a stock trades at is kind of almost like magical, like it's just that's what it's at, and somehow if you sell a lot it goes down. But the mechanics of it are that the price that a stock trades at is only the highest bid at which any market maker in that stock is willing to buy stock from the public. And how deep that buy is what controls whether the price is going to go up and down. So like, let's say that we've got 3 market makers in a stock and the price is trading at is $100 a share. Well, that might be that market maker 1 was willing to buy 1,000 shares at $100, and market maker 2 is willing to buy 1,000 shares at $80, and market maker 3 is willing to buy 100,000 shares at $60. So if you go through that first 1,000 shares, the price is going to drop to 80 because that's the next bid after the first 1,000 shares. So if somebody was to go and say they owned 100,000 shares, then they would basically drop the price to $60 because they would have dumped that much stock on the market. And those market makers have agreed that they're going to purchase X number of shares at their bid price. But once you go through that bid price, you can take the stock almost all the way down to 0. So you have to be careful when you're doing those deals because there are people who try to drive the stock to 0. Short sellers can borrow stock from people that own it right now, sell it at the bid price, and then they have an obligation to replace the stock at some date in the future, right? So their goal is they sell,
push it down.
Yeah, they sell 100,000 shares and take it down to 60, and they're replacing at 60, but they sold at 80 and 100, they've made the spread. And that's not necessarily a good thing. And of course, if they can take it to 0, then they don't ever have to even replace it, right? So,
and it being a very thin stock, it's easy to push down.
Exactly.
So it's a dangerous move, isn't it?
It's dangerous. You really need to know what you're doing. You really need to know what you're doing. And you need to have relationships with market makers. And, you typically want someone who is an underwriter that's going to go in and put together the syndicate of market makers that are going to create the support for the stock. You're going to want to have a very, very deep support at some base price, and so even if the price is 100, you're going to really want a lot of shares to be able, hopefully close to the float, to be purchased at whatever that lowest price bid that you're going to negotiate with those folks is.
But then you wouldn't be selling it to private equity. It would just be public already.
No, well, private equity companies do buy public companies. So there are lots of companies you hear it referred to in the news as taking it private. So that's what those deals are.
Taking it private to take it public again.
It's a shell game for those guys, I tell you. That's why it's like I let them play that because there's a lot of money focused at those deals.
Okay, what is number 80 in your deal funding strategy? Seller holdback applied to down payment with countering note payable. What is that?
So what that is that I mentioned just a minute ago that there's typically a holdback basket in case things go wrong, and it's usually equal to 10%. So if you're buying a $20 million company, you would typically have a $2 million holdback that would stay in escrow, and the seller would pay the $20 million into escrow. 18 million would get released to the buyer would put 20 million into escrow. 18 million would get released to the seller at closing, and there'd be a holdback of 2 million for some period of time, usually 3 years, right? So then that 2 million is something that you could play with. So you could say, listen, I'm willing to not put that money in escrow and pay it to you sooner with a promissory note. So normally you'd have to wait 3 years to get that money. I'll give it to you in a year, but don't make me put it in escrow right now. So rather than having to come up with 20 million, you only have to come up with 18. So that 2 million that you would have put in escrow to stay there for the seller that they're not going to, for the buyer, for the seller that they're not going to get for 3 years, you don't have to put there, which saves you 2 million now. Why are they incentivized to do it? Because they don't have to wait 3 years to get it. They get it in 12 months.
But they're not, you don't have the money to give them, so
that's the risk.
They're getting a note. No, you're giving them early a note rather than money, actually.
No, you're giving them the money because the note is only a 12-month note. So the note matures in 12 months.
Okay. And you're saying that instead of leaving it in escrow, you're giving it back to them.
You're saying instead of putting it in escrow for 3 years, we're not going to do an escrow on it, and I'm going to pay it to you in a year. So it's effectively a different kind of seller financing. The seller is taking on more risk because the cash isn't sitting in the bank, but the seller gets to get the money sooner. So as long as they believe that they're going to get the money, then that's something that they can be willing to do.
Right. Do you have a sample flow of funds memorandum?
I don't. I mean, they're done in the deals. So, but it's just like a checklist. So if you're writing it down, it'd just be like, you know, in a $1 million deal with a 10% deferred down payment and 10% integrator equity and 80% seller financing, the flow of funds, it's just an escrow agreement. So
In other words, so much money goes to this company at this bank with this IBAN,
exactly,
for example.
yeah. And so it's just like a closing statement for real estate. So I could give you one, but it would be redacted that it was to the point that it wouldn't be terribly helpful.
Right. Okay. Again, in the 216 deal funding strategies, number 86 through 91 are labeled pink. In other words, bad in your classifications. And it's owner carry. I thought owner carry was our main mechanism.
Yeah, no,
Why?
I don't think it's. I don't think it's labeled pink for bad. If it says, does it say that? I'd have to see the document.
It's I can.
You want to share your screen and show me?
Just a second.
And while you're looking at that, do you want to ask other questions, or can you find it, Joanne?
I got it. 86 through 91. Okay. 86. It simply says,
Can you share it so I can see it?
how do you do that here?
Click the share screen button at the bottom middle of your screen.
Bottom.
The bottom of your screen, it should have a green button that says share screen.
Just a second here. It's not, got a blank, I just got a blank, okay. Okay.
Okay, I got it. Never mind. Let me see here. So let me.
Host disabled participant screen
It's
share.
okay. I got it. Don't worry about it. Okay. So let's go down here. Where is it? 80. You said it's pink.
Number 86 through 91 here. 86.
Okay, mine are all green.
Oh, I'm sorry, 84. I'm sorry, 84.
Mine are still all green.
Why is mine pink?
I don't know.
Can you see it?
I can't
No,
see
that's
yours.
no, that's not it. That's not the one I'm looking at. I'm looking at a.
So this is the 216 strategies document.
Wait a minute. No, there's another form of it. It's an
Okay.
Excel spreadsheet. I now can't get to my screen. No, it's okay. Can you see can you see my screen?
I cannot.
No.
Okay, it's an Excel spreadsheet. It says 216 deal funding strategies. And it's in the portal. That's what
Deanna,
I'm.
will you pull it up in the portal?
It's a
Deanna?
spreadsheet. It's an Excel. It's a simple Excel spreadsheet.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Hold on.
And it's got pink on owner carry OC without note payable, no interest balloon, and it's got owner carry unsecured NP, note payable, no interest plus balloon. In other words, it says seller carries an unsecured note.
Yeah,
with
no, I know what all it says. But those are definitely good strategies. So if somehow it got labeled wrong, there should not be any color that indicates that those are not good strategies or anything like that. The only thing that I had done originally was I had green for things that you do before closing, and I think it was yellow for things that could be either before or after, and then light blue for things that you do after closing. So there wasn't anything that was bad in there that as a bad strategy. It was just whether it's pre-closing, after closing, or either or.
You know what? At the top, it's got like color coding. Normal is white, bad is pink, good is green, neutral is kind of gold.
Okay, I don't think
All right.
I've seen that. So
I don't.
don't know
I'm
where that came
looking
from.
for it. I'm looking for it, and I'm not seeing it. So let me dig into it because I'm not seeing it on ours. So
Joanne, will you email that to
Yeah.
Deanna?
Yeah. Okay. I've by the way, I've turned some of the words blue for my own purpose, the ones I'm interested in.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm not seeing that. So send that to me, Joanne, and we'll definitely dive into it and find out what you're seeing.
Okay. All right, let me just see
Okay.
if there's,
And then, do you want to go to some other questions? Because we have a couple of other people that have questions, Joanne.
Yeah, let's
Just-
do a
just
couple,
to
and then
that.
just a
we'll come back.
statement that Grant has no options to suggest for a viable leasing company.
Okay.
You know, so it's really a sad state of affairs, you know, that we can't find any leasing companies, that are actually workable.
Yeah, my guess is it's just a looking thing. So that just means that he doesn't know any off the top of his head, but you're going to have to research it for the industry that you're in for data centers. So, I mean, that's just going to take some primary research, talking to people that are in those industries and people that are lending for new equipment. You said you can find. So I would be asking them, you know, hey, well, what happens for old equipment? Then I would find out who are the liquidators of old equipment, because obviously they're interested in buying stuff. So would they be willing to lend on that? So it's just going to be kind of a process of going through that. You should also talk to Ty Crandall. So Deanna, will you make an introduction to Ty?
Yeah, Joanne, I'll do that. I'll do that right now.
Okay, who is Ty Crandall?
He is the founder and CEO of Credit Suite. And so they specialize in company credit. And so he might have somebody in his extensive bag of contacts that could help you with that.
Did you say Credit Suite?
Correct. SUITE.
As opposed to Credit Suisse.
Exactly.
I just sent that to you, Joanne, so you're set. I just
right.
sent you the email.
All
All right.
Thank you. All right.
So George,
I'll forward that to you later, Deanna.
yeah, you know what? And Joanne, you've got my cell phone. Just call me when we're done, and we'll walk through everything as well, just to triple check and make sure you have it.
Yeah,
George Saviticus, you had a question. You're up, my friend.
Hi, Roland.
Hey, George.
I have a deal that I'm working on. I'm talking with the owner. It's a landscaping company.
Okay.
And they're asking 400,000. The profit is about 240.
They're asking for 400,000, or they're asking for 100,000.
400,000.
400. Okay.
Yes. I asked.
Profit is how much? 240.
240 is the profit.
Okay.
I asked him where did he come up with the price. He said, you know, there's about $200,000 in trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So 200 for the trucks, another 200 for the rest of the company.
Okay.
Everything looks good. I mean, he's not marketing at all. He's had the company for over 30 years, ready to retire.
I like the numbers.
The numbers look good. His season is from April to December, right before the holidays, and then he just closes down. He doesn't do any snow removal, so I know there's an opportunity there.
No recurring contracts, just for maintenance generally, which is a huge opportunity.
Yeah, and he has about 8 main clients that he does weekly. He does very high-end landscaping, and this is where the problem comes up. He says that he can't train somebody that doesn't have horticulture training. And it's a special school that you go to. So I thought there's a couple of universities where I could go and find people straight out of college that I could bring in and they could apprenticeship under him. He really wants to sell now. I'm trying to push him to stay on for another year so he can train the new guy for one season. And he said he really wants to sell, but then when I pushed him, I said, okay, what happens if you don't sell? You know, are you going to just shut the doors and leave? Because he wants to go out of California from New York. He said, no, I'll die in this company than just shut the doors. So he's contradicting himself.
Right.
He'll work till the end, but then he wants to really sell now. So I think I could get him to that point. So does this sound like something that's feasible to bring in a young kid in and train him? He says that it's really hard to really train in that kind of detail what he does with landscaping. So I'm kind of weirded out about how easy would it be to transition and document everything, do SOPs on basically what he does at the high end level.
Right. And is it only him? Is there nobody else in his company that is somewhat qualified? Maybe not as good as him, but still understands what they need to understand?
No, he has a team of 3. He only has one team that has been with him for over 20 years. Okay. And I know I could break that team up into 3 teams and make each one the leader of their own team, foreman, and then bring in you guys. So now I have 3 teams working He does no marketing, everything is referral.
So do you know what he does specifically that the other people don't know how to do right now? So that, like,
that's basically it. The horticulture, there's very few people who said that know the kind of detail that he does.
Yeah, that's that would be. I mean, it's not like even brain surgery. We can get tens of thousands of brain surgeons, right? So that might be a limiting belief that he has in his mind. Right. So what I would do is I'd say, look, what's his name?
John.
Say, look, John, here's what we need to do. Number one, as far as the training thing goes, you said you're going to die in the company, but you also want to move to California. So if you don't stay for 12 months and help me train somebody, then you're not going to sell the company. And a year from now, you'll still be in the company wanting to sell and wanting to move to California, but you won't have any path to do that. If you agree right now to stay for a year and train the people that I'm going to bring in, then you have a path, and you know at the end of 12 months, you'll be able to go to California. So, do you really want to go to California? Right? That would be the, because a year is going to go by no matter what. And if we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, in 50 more weeks, you could be gone, right? So that would be my getting him motivated with that. So then the next thing I would do is I'd say, okay, here's what I need you to do for me. I want us to sit down and I want to write a job description for the specific things, because you need to know about horticulture is it's like the internet, your thoughts, right? It's a big area. So I need to know, what is it about this that they need to know? Well, they need to know everything. Okay, but let walk me through a job, like your most complex job that you've done where you needed to really draw on your horticultural skills. What was it that you needed to know? Well, the aphids were on the, Trachis papakadai, and, okay, great. I have no idea what you just said, but that helps us understand. So what was that? Well, it was a little insect that was, destroying this particular kind of plant. Fantastic. So we have to have somebody that knows about that kind of stuff. Yes. Okay, great. And get that down to a job description of what it is that is his secret sauce superpower that he has horticulturally that makes him so valuable. And then you've got a job description that you can use to go and replace him, right? So then the next step would be do a search for people that have those skills. And that's not that hard to do, right? So, and I can tell you, because like we have here on our property, we have a botanist and I don't know what all the terms are, but I know we've got an arborist. That's we've got a tree guy, right? And so we found the tree guy. It's called, Google, right? Tree guy, that's called an arborist. Fantastic. Arborist. Okay. There's 72 of them in San Diego. Love it. I need one. Okay. Let me read the reviews of these arborists' business. Okay. This one has good. So what I would probably do is say, if I need, and it's a horticulturist, right? Okay. So, and what's the area? Let's just do this. What is the area of the world that this is in?
Suffolk County in New York.
Okay, so let's go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the Googles. And we're going to say horticulturist, Suffolk County, New York. Okay. So now I've got this is interesting. This is a cooperative extension from Cornell. So that might be a place that I go and say, hey, this could be a place that I could find some people that had the skills that I need. You need to go through that job description first, right? But then we've got a resource guide, a horticultural society. Fantastic, right? Do you think any of these people might be looking for jobs? By the way, I see here, God, man, I hate the way they do the, it's very hard to get rid of. Hang on, do this like this, and then they put this stupid share bar in a place that covers everything I want. And then if I click, there we go, okay. Sorry, it's screen management challenge. Okay, so it says scholarship. Well, that's kind of interesting. I might look on that and say, well, these guys do scholarships for the Long Island Horticultural Society. By the way, it's super old. It was founded in 1934. And it's saying they're offering a reward. So you might even think about talking to them about saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody. I know you guys do these scholarships and things. If you can help me find somebody, I'll pay the $3,000 scholarship, right? And I would ask them, you might think about going to a meeting, or you might just ask them, you might reach out to their board of directors, which are all listed here. And, maybe these people would be looking for a job, right? You never know. So like that to me is, oops, I didn't mean to stop sharing. That to me is kind of the process. Is I'm going to say, I need a job description, and then I need to know where are the people that are the potential, that have the potential to fill this. And then I'm going to go down here and look at what Google says for horticulture in that area. And I'm going to talk potentially to all of these people and say, hey, I got a company that I'm looking to grow, and I'm interested in potentially acquiring your company and working this together to grow this thing. And you can see there's 3 pages. There's 3 pages of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's 45 people that you could talk to right here. And maybe you talk to the owner, or maybe you talk to some of the employees and you poach and you look at LinkedIn and you see who works at these things, right? You get a VA to say, give me all the people that work at these places that are listed as an operator of some sort, but not owner. And then you do a direct mail campaign or a telephone campaign or a slide dial, voice, ringless voicemail campaign saying, hey, hey, I'm sorry I missed you. I just wanted to let you know, I have a company that does landscaping on the high end for people, and we're looking for a horticulturist, and your name came up in our research. If it's something that you might be interested in, this opportunity, then, give me a call at this number or go to this website or whatever. And I guarantee you, George, you can find somebody that can do what this guy does. I know that, we all tend to think that we're indispensable, but the truth is no one is, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt, that I could definitely replace him. He was like adamant. He was almost trying to sell me not to buy this company. It was so weird.
But it sounds like most sellers have mixed feelings because it's his baby. And he said, I'll die in this company. It's like, that's probably what he thought and what he has thought for years. And only now he's starting to say, but I'd love to go to California. So he's got this dream of this vision of what life in California is going to look like, which I would encourage him to tell you more about. What are you going to do when you get to California? Oh, that sounds great. Get him bought into it more. But at the same time, he's like, but I don't want to let my baby, he wants to eat his cake and have it too. And that's, what you want to do is encourage him to consume the cake, and then you're able to come in and fill the void. But that's the way to do it without threatening him, is just to say, okay, well, just so I understand what you do specifically, so I can figure out, what this is going to look like post-sale while you're in California. Let's identify the specific challenges that you're facing. Then when you start interviewing the 45 people that, come from that first initial search without really trying very hard, you can say, okay, well, tell me about this. When you get an aphid on a quatakatahata, what would you do? And then that becomes your benchmark for seeing if they can handle these problems, because it's just not that hard.
I don't think so. Yeah. Thanks for that. The second obstacle, though, that I'm encountering with this guy is he's using his house. He says he has about an acre of land in the back that he uses as his garage for all these trucks. Obviously, I would
zoning
need
issue.
Space. What?
You got a zoning issue there? Is it zoned for him to be able to do that?
There's a lot of farms out there,
okay.
So he probably has something like that.
Okay.
So I don't know if he's planning on selling the house or keeping it while he travels. But how would you follow up with that part? Because I will need some space for all these trucks.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, I just want to mention, because I thought about it and then forgot, and now you reminded me again, is he's placing a $200,000 value on those trucks. I would get that quoted.
Oh, yeah. I was definitely going to devalue it afterwards.
Yeah. Okay, good. So a few things you could do there. One is you could put the real estate in the deal. Two is you could just say, obviously I need to continue to have the trucks here. So you might argue for a lease situation where you can rent the space that they're occupying currently. Yeah, I would probably price out other options for, where you might store them. You might also look and see if land is $10,000 or $15,000 an acre out there. You might just buy an acre of land and park them on it, right? But you obviously have security issues and things like that too, because you don't want people, taking your gas and things like that. So I would just look at like, what are the options for me to do this that are not the place that they are right now, and figure out what's the market value that you would have to pay if you don't keep them there. And then you might say, listen, give me 12 months. You're not doing anything with this land anyway. It's just sitting there in the backyard. So as part of the deal, I want to be able to keep them there for 12 months while I figure out what to do with the other stuff. And then maybe you buy yourself a year of free lease. And then you could say, and if for some reason after that, I need to keep them there, then, how about if I pay you X and let X be some fraction of what it would cost you to go and rent space for them elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So you could acquire the property. You could do a deal where you lease. You could put them in a third-party place. You could ask for some free time there. Those would be 4 options, kind of right off the top of my head that might work.
Would it make sense once I bring the new kid in, if he shows that he really knows what he's doing, to keep the old owner like a 20% interest just as a consulting kind of gig for him, and
it
then
sounds like
try to sell it to the new guy maybe later on to make him a partner so he can have more interest in the company?
I like the idea of incentivizing the other guy with some, what I would do rather than have an obligation to take the new, guy or gal and make them an owner by saying, and I'll give you 20%. I would say, look, here's the deal. I don't know what's going to happen, how things are going to work out. I think you're going to be amazing. But what I need some time to see how you perform. So let's do the deal like this right now. I'll pay you this much a month. You got benefits or whatever. And at the end of 12 months, let's sit down and talk about the possibility of, what it might look like if you come on as an owner. So there's definitely I'm definitely of a mind that there is ownership upside for you here, but we can't really talk about that until we see how things go. So let's plan that we will talk about it in 12 months. So now you have an agreement to agree. You're not bound to give ownership. You get to see how he or she performs. And then if they do well, you can say, hey, you've done amazing. Let's do a vesting over the next couple of years of 20%. We'll do 4-year vesting, 5% a year or something like that. And then you can have somebody like Grant do your agreement. So if, they leave or you have to fire them, you can get the stock back. I think that's the best way to do that. And there was one other part of that, right? You said ownership, and what was the other part of that?
I think keep the old owner on.
Yeah, I wouldn't keep the old owner on. I'd rather have you want him out, right? He's checked out. So if he was going to stay and operate, yes. But if he's moving to California, he's mentally checked out. I don't think you're going to get much from that, especially as time goes by. So I'd rather have him as a paid consultant and take part of that $200K that he's looking for up front and say, let me pay you $100K up front and $8,333 a month for 12 months to be a consultant, right?
I see. Yeah. I was thinking only because his name is actually on the company, and I think he has such a great relationship. A lot of his customers have been with him for 20, 30 years.
Uh-huh.
If he goes, will I lose some of these clients because they wanted him?
Yeah,
but
so that'll be
even at a small percentage, and he makes a phone call once a year, we keep him on the books.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel that's necessary, for sure. What you really want to do is, and you also mentioned there were 8 big customers. So
yes,
there's some risk associated with this acquisition as well, because if they are of equal size and any one of them goes away, you're going to take a 12.5% haircut in your business revenue, right?
Exactly.
So I would be concerned about that. Just and I just tell him, hey, typically businesses, we have to figure out a way to mitigate the risk here, because if something happens with one of these people, then there needs to be an adjustment in the price, right? So I would argue for that. But yeah, if you think having him on, you probably don't have to give him 20%. I mean, even as an advisor consultant, he might be willing to make that call. Tell you what, how'd you like to make $5,000 for 15 minutes every year? How can I do that? you call each of these people, you know,
That
that's
sounds good.
I just don't think, I don't think you're going to get anything out of him extra for, you know, a continuing ownership percentage. And you then have a minority shareholder that has rights and stuff that you might not, you know, necessarily want involved in it.
Great. Awesome.
It sounds like a cool deal though. I mean, I really like the bones of the deal.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll keep you posted.
Okay. I love it.
All right, Jason Hunter, you had a question?
Yes. Hey, Roland, how you doing today?
Good, Jason. How you doing?
I can't complain.
Jason, we can't hear you. You're muted. Want to unmute?
Sorry about that.
There you are.
There we go.
So I was watching your video about, I think, e-commerce, and I saw contest domination.
Yep.
And I was, because I have like, you know, like service and also have like, you know, product-based websites.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like, well, I mean, you know, based from the video, it seemed like it could definitely help me attract more leads. But I guess I just didn't understand how and if it fit for my services and my products at the moment. So I guess, how do I know if that's the right, you know, I guess lead source?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So the leads that come in through contests, so you have all different types of customer acquisition. Contests is one way that you can do that. The quality of the people that come in through contests is not going to be as high as people that come through other things, because a lot of them are coming in just to have part of the contest, right? Just to have the ability to potentially win something. So you just have to run a test with any of those customer acquisition things. It's just one of several tests that you're going to run. And then, like, what we would do is we would say you would have a contest with the ability to win a makeup kit, right? Or something like that. And people would come in and register because they hoped that they would win the makeup kit or whatever thing that we had as the prize. Or sometimes we'd have several prizes. And then you just see, how do those people convert into your funnel? And if they convert in a way that makes it make sense for the cost of acquisition, then you keep doing it. And if not, then you don't. I mean, it's pretty simple. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
I've just unmuted you again, Jason.
You might want to
you're
turn
muted.
off. You might want to turn off video, Jason, because it seems like you got like a slow internet connection.
There you go.
Okay. Stop video. I mean, yeah, it does help, I guess. So you saying there's really no way to kind of funnel out, or like the contest in itself kind of funnel out like the potential buyers, or
Well, what funnels those, what separates those people out is your offer. So you're going to say, here's the contest, sign up to win the Whiz Bang widget. Okay, great. So you get 100,000 people sign up to win the Whiz Bang widget. And then as soon as they sign up, you've captured their email, you've pixeled them into a custom audience in Facebook and Google. So you can run retargeting ads to them for whatever offer you've got. So they're going into your funnel as a result of opting in to the email list and being pixeled. So now you've got 3 ways right off the bat that you can remarket to them. 1, through retargeting on Google, 2, through retargeting on Facebook, and 3, through email that you send. So now they're in your funnel as a lead, and then you're going to track the quality of those leads, and the people that are going to be that are going to be good are the people that interact with your ads that are retargeting ads and your emails that you send. And so you'll track that usually using UTM codes and see, how is this performing? So then you say, okay, well, it costs me $1 to get somebody to enter the contest because I have to run ads to find the people that come into the contest. And on average, every 10 people that come into the contest turn into a customer. So now I know that I've got a $10 customer acquisition cost. So then I say, assuming that there's no cost of fulfillment, you can say, okay, well, I got a $10 customer acquisition cost. What's the value of that client? Okay, well, now in your offers that you're sending them through retargeting on Facebook, Google, and email, you're going to say, I'm offering this thing that's $70. And so now, you know, you got a $10 customer acquisition cost and a $70 sale. You got a 7X on your, you know, on your ROAS, right? Return on ad spend. And so that seems like that makes sense. So your filtering is kind of automatic. So that's why, unless I'm not understanding the question, you're only thinking, how many people can come from each of these lead sources? This lead source happens to be contest domination. Great, now they're in my contest funnel. So once I've got the lead, how do the leads convert? I'm gonna track those with UTM codes. And then I'm gonna be able to remarket to them through I'm gonna be able to convert them through 3 follow-up mechanisms, but also in the funnel, I'm probably gonna have a conversion aspect as well. So that's gonna be, you click my ad, you enter the contest, now I've got your email and I've got you pixeled so I can retarget and follow up. The next thing that you see is gonna be, thank you for entering the contest. A lot of people who sign up to win the Whiz Bang widget like to do this thing. They like to have the Whiz Bang, you know, what's it? And so if you'd like the Whiz Bang what's it, then click here. So you're going to have a funnel that you're going to have an opportunity to sell them in the funnel that they've entered into as well. So now you got 4 opportunities to convert those people to a customer. You're going to look at all 4 of those sources and say, what is my average order value and my return on ad spend for that? And if it makes sense, you continue. And if it doesn't, you don't. Does that make sense?
Jason?
Yes, I was able to understand. I was able to understand.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Appreciate it, Roland.
Yeah, man. My pleasure.
All right. And then MTI Education. I don't know the name, but I know you had a question. So MTI?
Yeah.
We'll call them NT.
There you are.
Hey there,
MT.
hi.
Oh, there you go. There, Jonathan.
Hey, it's Jonathan. Yeah, I signed in under the wrong account. So it's Jonathan. Thanks for putting these things together. They're super helpful.
Yeah, man. It's my pleasure.
So my question is around buying into my existing partner's business. So we've been together for 10 years now, through ups and downs, through some tough times. We started our business during the last recession.
Okay.
And our business is in certifying real estate agents in probate real estate.
Okay.
So we've educated and certified around 11,000 agents so far.
Fantastic.
And that's the certification business, and that belongs to Mike and Molly. They're a married couple, and that's their company.
Okay.
And I get some of the revenues from there based on what I participate in. Then about 8 years ago or 9 years ago, we started another business called Probate Data. And Probate Data is we basically get all the cases from the courthouses and put them online so that people don't have to go to the courthouse anymore. And then we augment that data with other information so that they turn into good leads for real estate agents and investors. So that one, we're 1/3 partner in everything together on Probate Data, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Now,
can we mute, I'm sorry, can we mute Jason, so Deanna, because it's just some sound coming through there.
Oh, my bad.
There we go.
Thanks.
Okay, go
So,
ahead.
so now I want to buy into Mike and Molly's business called MTI Education.
Yep.
We're doing a webinar later. That's why I signed in as them.
Nice.
And so obviously I'm so deep into it. I may not be seeing certain red flags that are there. I can think of a few, but we have such a solid partnership that I think we can get through it. The main reason I want to become 1/3 partner of their business is because I can clearly see, thanks to you and what you guys have been teaching me, how I can grow that business through acquisition. I mean, we have outstanding credit worthiness. We've just grown through sales.
Are they
so
both working actively in that business, by the way?
I'm sorry, what?
Are they both actively working in that business?
Yes, they're both actively working in the business. I get one of the product lines is an upsell. It's like a done-for-you website service and lead service for them. I get 1/3 revenues there. So they're splitting revenues where I participate already. I just don't have equity in the company.
Okay.
If I want to grow the company, I want to make sure that in case there's an exit in 3 to 5 years from now, that I get to benefit from that. I just don't want to keep growing their business.
Okay. So what's your question?
And when they exit. So 2-part question is what potential red flags can you see in this scenario? And then second question is, what tips do you have on how I could buy my way into their business? And they do about $1.2 million in sales. Just that part of the business, roughly 300 to 350 EBITDA.
Okay. So, I mean, it's just a conversation because you guys have been together for a decade. So I just say, look, I mean, this is a conversation that I have frequently. So it's going to sound, to me, it sounds really simple and basic, but maybe it will be helpful, or maybe you'll say that didn't help at all. It seems super basic. But I mean, for when I've got business partners that I've been doing something with for a long time, and there's an opportunity that I see, I just basically say, listen, we've been doing this. I think that this business that you've got can grow quite a bit. and I've got a lot of ideas for doing it that I'd like to implement. We've worked together for a long time. I love being in business with you guys, and I'd like the opportunity to come in and be a partner in that business as well. What do you think? And then let them tell you, right? Before you, like I wouldn't prepare a whole thing about how it's going to work. I'd say, what do you think? Now they might say, sounds interesting. What do you think? Right? In which case I would say, well, I'd like to acquire a third of it. And in exchange, I'm going to do this. And so probably the easiest thing for us to do is right now it's making, did you say 350?
350 a bit, yeah.
Yeah. So it's making about 350 a year right now. We could do a few different things. I think probably the easiest, like I could pay you guys some money to buy in, but what I'd really like to do is use that money to grow the business for all of us. And so how about if we do this? How about if we say, I'm going to, is what you want to do with the business going to require any cash?
No, I mean, my idea is to basically buy a few other companies, and then that service real estate agents, and then service those agents with our courses.
Okay, so then that might be what you say so I have a plan. It's growth through acquisition, and I'd like to acquire some companies rather than paying you guys cash for the company that you've got right now. I would like to just use my resources to acquire those other companies, and then I'll contribute them in, and we'll be 50-50 or 1/3, 2/3, or however you want to do it on everything. What do you think about that? And then see what that looks like. What's cool about that is that then your resources might not require you to spend cash, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, my resources is you and your course, what you're teaching me.
Exactly.
Going on. Yeah.
Right. And we're here to help with the deals too, which would be great. So we can talk about them. So I think that would be the way to start that. And then see what they say to that. And if they say, that sounds great, then, you've got it. If they say, well, we'd really, we'd need to get some money for that, then it's just, okay, well, tell me, what does that look like? Well, it's doing 350 and, at a 3 times, that's about $1 million. And if you're going to acquire a third of it, that'd be 300 and some thousand. So we'd like to get 300 and some thousand for it, and say, well, then it's, okay, that's cool. Let's talk about how that would be paid. So is that something that we could basically do a deal where I'm coming in and I'm helping with all these acquisitions and everything, and and then basically I'm going to be getting profits from the company, and so I'll just put my share of the profits towards that acquisition. Is that something that might work? And a lot of people are like, yeah, but they would never do that, except that they will, right? That is something that people will do. So that I just have that conversation, and then as you go through it, come here and let's walk you through it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and if
do you see any red flags with this? Do you see any potential?
Yeah, you mentioned that. I'm sorry. I know it's the perfect kind of deal. And as a matter of fact, we have a real estate business called Real Estate Worldwide. I believe we sell data, we aggregate and sell data, but I don't think that we're primary on probate. So it'd be good to have you chat with Kent Clothier, who's my partner in that business. Okay. And also for the certification of real estate agents, we own a real estate brokerage. So it'd be good for you to chat with my business partners, Sam and Oliver, on that. So Deanna, would you make those intros in that context? So with Kent, it would be with respect to the data, and also possibly some of those services that you've got. So here's a resource for you to bring to those guys.
Yeah, no kidding.
If they're doing builds of websites, that might be something that we don't do currently. I'm pretty sure we don't. That would be a good JV that could be revenue for them. So those would be the things, Deanna, for Kent, would be the data for probate and the extra services for like website builds and things like that. So that might be a good strategic partnership. And then with Sam and Oliver for Big Block, the real estate agent certification.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll keep you posted for sure.
Awesome. That's exciting. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Very well.
And then Justin H., you had a question. Justin? If not, I can read the question. There you are, Justin.
Say the leaving the equipment, going back to the deal earlier, leaving the equipment on the property would be a huge sell for the owner while they're in transition and having to train that person, as they don't have to now leave. They can, when they're done, they're home. So just another way to get it stored for free for the entire duration of while they're training that person.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that. Thank you.
And then Sharon Atagaro. Sharon, you're up. You want to unmute?
Oh, thank you. So just on top of Jonathan's, I have a family friend who has no children and has helped our family for a couple of sales. And so I reached out to him to potentially have a dialogue about kind of sweat equity and using our resources to take over their brokerage in the next couple years. So would also love any thoughts or tips. And then the concern is that, of course, I don't have experience in real estate, although my family is kind of jumping into Airbnb, my sister. So that would be part of the business.
Sure.
team.
So the first thing I'm going to ask you to ask me specific questions, because just your thoughts is too hard, right? I can talk forever. So the second thing though, is you don't need it. So, and I'll give you the perfect example is we have the fastest growing real estate company in the United States on the Inc. list, 3 years running. And none of us, we have 1,000 agents that work for us, and none of the three of us has a real estate license, right? Because we know the business. And so we have a real estate broker, which we're required to have be the agent of record, that is the person who is the responsible managing officer. But just like George's deal with the horticulturist, George doesn't need to be a horticulturist or have any, he can have a black thumb. Every plant that he touches instantly shrivels up and dies. And as long as he brings in the right people, he's good in that business. So I wouldn't worry about that at all.
Okay. So I guess question was, I was thinking of kind of my family taking over or supporting as they phase out and have lifestyle freedom.
Yeah.
But then the other option would be that we have a potential partner who also owns a brokerage, so could be a larger merger deal. Mm-hmm. Is there and they have a broker license, so is there a preferred or better option, or explore both, or what?
Yeah, I would explore both, and then the deal, the opportunities will take shape as you explore them. So there's nothing wrong with you saying, okay, I've got a few different paths I can go down, and I'm going to start talking to whoever I need to talk to about those different paths. And then as you do that, the deals, all three potential deals will evolve, and then you can be evaluating them until you get down to the point where you're ready to make a decision. But I think that it makes sense to pursue multiple options until you see which one seems like it makes the most sense. And that usually will just evolve as a result of going down that road with each of those people. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And then, so it sounds like to break the deal up as many parts as might be necessary. For instance, they do purchase and sale, but also property management. So kind of look at each section of it and then holistically, or?
Yeah, but the answer again is both. And that's really, I'm really happy you mentioned that, because that's the thing that gives you the most options, right? Is if you only look at things as a whole, then you only have really one transactional option. Now, there are lots of different ways to do the transaction. That's the 216 things, right? But there are lots of ways to structure the deal. And if you can think about slicing the deal into different deals, then you can explore both. What does it look like if I do the whole deal? And this goes back to, back in the 80s when they were doing leverage buyouts a whole lot. They would basically say, there's this giant company that does 14 things. The thing that we want is this one thing. So we're going to structure a deal where we sell off the other 13. Maybe we shut down 3 of them and we sell off 10 and we keep the one we want. And through the sales of the other things and the other deals we did, we get to keep the one thing that we're most interested in. So for you, looking at the deal as a whole is great as one option, but then slicing it up into property management, real estate sales, commercial, whatever, the different divisions, and saying, is there a possibility to do something with those deals? And do the individual deals put me in a better position for the main thing that I want than the holistic deal? And then you've got so many more options, right?
I love it. Yeah. And I love the philosophy of win-win, because we can give them lifestyle freedom and, you know, enjoy the last chapters or more, and then also learn and support growth.
Yeah.
So,
And that's a big thing, as well as, you know, for a lot of people, they want to continue to be relevant, right? And to feel vital. And so you can give them last chapter plus relevance and vitality plus income. And it's win-win, because they get all those things which they want. They get to kind of stay plugged in, but, you know, maybe they're a little tired and burn out, you know, with doing this, and they've got other things they want to do, and they couldn't stay all in because it takes too much time. But now you're giving them flexibility to be able to continue to do those things too. And that's that's not a hard deal point. You know, we're going to give you X dollars for this many months. That's a soft, but big, important deal point that you should definitely explore. Yeah, absolutely.
excellent. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, Alex. Alex, you're up. Alex M., you're ready? You had a question? Alex? I just had you.
Why don't you go to Brian?
Can I just ask one thing? Is the deal software that you had discussed in the previous course, Roland, is it in the portal?
No, it's a separate. Yeah, go ahead, Deanne.
No, that was emailed to you separately. You have a login that's completely separate. If you have any questions with that, you can let me or Bailey know, and we can reset it.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Alex M., are you up? Are you ready? If not, I'll read the question.
Alex says, Deanna, I put a new headset, but I guess the microphone isn't working. So let's go to whoever's next, and then we'll see if Alex can get his headset work.
Okay. Brian Engel, you ready? You're up, friend.
Yes.
Hey, Brian.
Hello. How's everybody?
Hey, Brian.
So my question is, I currently have a deal working where I can purchase a business for 1.25 million. That basically structured as, you know, I'm only putting a minimal down of 10,000, and which comes out about 0.5%, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah, or 1%. But anyway, the business has been hit pretty hard with COVID. It's had about a 50% loss in revenue, from 6 million down to 3 million projected for the year. And so now they're currently in a downsizing situation where they're trying to get back to profitability.
Okay.
So my question is, though, is, you know, there's a 65,000 square foot building. There's all kinds of equipment. You know, I would think the assets alone is, you know, worth the 1.25 million. So I'm trying to think if maybe if I just dismantled this business by selling off the customer list, selling off the assets, you know, I may come out 2 or 3 million, even discounting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it is in an industry that is in a downward trend for the last 30 years.
Okay.
So, you know, I would like to think that I have options maybe of, you know, getting it back to profitability and it still being a good deal, because basically it's almost like a lease to own it, paying 2% of the gross profit.
I agree. I love those deals.
Okay. And at 0% interest. So, you know, whatever the roughly the after COGS, it's 1.5 million gross profit. So I'm gonna pay him 2% of the 1.5 million every year. But, you know, I couldn't lease that equipment, 65,000 square foot building and all that at that price. I wouldn't think, you know.
It sounds like a fantastic deal. So do you have any specific question I can help with?
Yeah, my specific question is, if I do take the route of just dismantling this business and selling it off in pieces, how do I value the customer, the customers, if I just wanted to sell the customers to another like business?
Well, so if we're looking at an apples to apples crossover and you're looking at a competitor that has the other assets that they need to operate the business, then it would be reasonable to assume that they would have similar margin that you've got here. So I would basically say, so, you know, you guys already have all the assets. We're in the process of liquidating. I've got all these customers that, that generate a profit of $1.5 million a year. And so if I move them over to you, then you should make $1.5 million off of them as well. Or you could ask them what their margin is. Maybe they say, yeah, but we only make, a 30% margin and you're making a 50% margin, cool. That would be, that would be the place that I would start, would be to say, it's $1.5 million worth of profit. I'm going to just basically make the move over there. And as a matter of fact, then give you the brand, right? So I'll give you the custom, and so they don't have to see any real difference in anything they're doing. And then you can transition them over as you like. And you might own the brand, or you might lease them the brand. But that'd be that's where I'd start. And
the reason I'm wanting to use that as an option is because, like I said, the industry itself has been in a downward trend over the last 30 years, a small trickle downward. But with the COVID thing, it's really taken a hit on the industry.
Right.
And therefore, as this industry is already kind of in the mode of merging and acquisition of other companies, I just feel like I could almost kind of like get a premium for these customers, because people are scrambling to get more revenue in the door,
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I'm looking at that option. If I can get this company back to profitability, though, it is a self-run. I don't have to be in the day-to-day operations of it.
No, that sounds like just an absolute wonderful deal. Jonathan's asking if you don't mind sharing what the industry is. Don't share it if you don't feel comfortable.
Commercial printing industry.
Okay, great.
I think you're pretty familiar with that, working with Jeff and some of the
other. Yeah.
So, a matter of fact, I plan on calling Jeff, because I think this may be a good deal for you guys too, maybe to look at us partnering up on it. Maybe, I don't know.
I like that a lot. Absolutely. And that, we're definitely interested in anything like this. So yeah, for sure.
Okay. I'll get in touch with Deanna and maybe kind of work out that end of it once we kind of move along a little further.
Excellent. I love it.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. And then if we can get Alex in back on, if not, that'll be our last question of the day today. So Alex, I think we still have you. Are you able to get on now? Alex? I can hear something, Alex. I'll read the question and then we'll see if that'll help.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Says, I ended up with 2 retail shop leads, both of them very far from me geographically. So I ended up skipping the deal, mostly because one was so niche and the other was in a mountain town, and I'm worried about the manager. So if whomever I'd hired left or got sick, I didn't want to scramble to find a niche manager and have 0 options regarding stepping in myself during this transition. And in the mountain town, I'm just simply worried about the labor shortages. So I passed on the deal. I'm wondering if you would have seen it differently and would have found a way to salvage it.
Based on that information, people are everything. So that based on what you said, given the fact that they're so far away and you had questions about one of them and you're concerned about finding somebody for the other one, that like the people issue is not one I want to deal with. I want to have those pretty much baked in. So I think that you made the right move. I would have done it the same way.
And then a second part of the question is I'm finding that when I do calculations on the above and example situations, I'm still coming up with huge percentages that I would need to ask the owner to carry. So I'm feeling a little bit stuck in that. Any ideas?
It just depends on the percentages, but like I said, we're typically asking for about an 80% carry. And if they are motivated, you shouldn't have any problem with that at all. And keep in mind, so many businesses, and Brian's perfect example, right? It's a business that has wonderful profit and everything, but he's able to get in for, 0.5%, I think he said is what it worked out to be, right? So it's just finding the right seller. So don't be discouraged by that at all. We really want sellers that are motivated, who are willing to carry large portions, because it takes care of a whole lot of the financing on it. So don't let that scare you off at all, especially if you're in that, like 80% is a kind of a very 50 to 80%, very, very standard, right? Wouldn't worry about that at all.
All right. I believe that is all for today.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. I love how all the deals are progressing along. And so Jonathan and Brian and Jason, I think had one too, all you guys that are working on these deals, Joanne, it's great to see. And I'm excited to see how things evolve. And really thank you also for sharing here so that everybody else can learn from what you guys are doing too. So that's it for today. And thank you, Deanna. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys. Have a great week. We'll talk to you later.